Cubone always wears the skull of its deceased mother on its head and never shows its face. It cries mournfully into the moonlight. Damn, Game Freak, I'm starting to believe some of you have some home issues because that is dark. So almost every Pokedex entry says something about Cubones wearing their mother's skull after they have died. So one could only assume that they are wearing the skull of a deceased Marowak, right? Wrong. First off, let's start by pointing out that Marowak and Cubone have very different head structures. I mean, yeah, they are basically the same, but if you look closely, you'll notice that Marowak's head is quite literally a bone, where Cubone is only wearing a skull. We know this because you can see underneath Cubone's skull. You can see brown coloring at its chin and even beneath its eyes. Where Marowak's chin is literally bone and the eyes are attached to its bone head. Marowak also has more pointed earpieces and a smaller nasal cavity than its counterpart. You can also see that it looks to be a tooth coming from Cubone's head mask, where Marowak has a much more clean-cut skull. Now, one of the most popular theories is that Cubone has gotten its DNA from Kangaskhan. The theory goes that Kangaskhan died after giving birth to a baby Kangaskhan, who we're going to call Kangaskid for the sake of this video. The mother Kangaskhan dies and rots away. Kangaskid would wear its mother's skull and somehow lose its typing and become a ground type. Maybe that has something to do with the skull. Further evidence to prove this is that Kangaskid and Cubone have very similar sprites and coloring. So that solves it, right? Cubone is a descendant from the Kangaskhan line, right? Nope, still wrong. Although this theory seems to be supported by many, there is some evidence to disprove that. For one, the skull of Kangaskhan would be much too large for a Kangaskid to wear. It would act as more of a shelter than anything. Apart from that, you will notice that Kangaskhan's ears look like they are made up of cartilage. On top of that, you will notice that Kangaskhan seemingly has a tooth in the right placing to line up with the Cubone skull, but still, look how small Kangaskhan's nasal cavity is. It doesn't match up at all. We also know that Kangaskid is blue, where Cubone is brown. So from the information given, we can assume that Cubone is its own Pokemon, right? It has its own features. Nope. Wrong once again. Another popular theory is, and one that I agree more with, is that Cubone's genetics are from a Charizard line. How, you ask? Well, imagine a Charizard has laid a nest of eggs. Later, the mother Charizard leaves the nest to scavenge for food, and one way or another, whether getting in with a fight with another Pokemon or freezing to death and its tail going out and it dying, the mother died, therefore never returning to the nest, meaning that the Charizards hatched without her around. Now, it's a well-known theory that Charizards breathe the fire onto the tail of the Charmanders, giving them their typing. So, the mother Charizard never returned to the nest. The eggs could have been discarded into the Charizard graveyard. When the Charmanders hatched, they took up the skull of a dead Charizard nearby to scare off enemies. Eventually, never gaining its fire type, Cubone became a ground type and roamed the land with a Charizard skull. Furthermore, when the Cubone encountered Pokemon that wanted to battle in the graveyard, the Cubone picked up a Charizard arm bone and used it as protection against enemy Pokemon. To prove this theory as fact, look at the earpieces of the Charizard. Along with that, the nasal cavity looks perfect. On top of that, Charizard has a tooth on either side of its skull lining up perfect with the Cubone skull. So that does it, right? Cubone's genetics come from Charmanders that were neglected and therefore becoming an all-new Pokemon altogether. And that's where I personally believe that Cubone got its genetics from. If you like this theory, make sure to smack that like button, and please hit that subscribe button to keep in touch with future theories. If you don't like or agree with this theory, please comment below and tell me why. I'm Grayson from GameOdyssey, and your mind has just been invaded.